Wealthy CEO was saved by Maid's virginity. 6 years later, a little girl appears and calls him Daddy. The press conference was going perfectly. Cameras flashed as Henry Oswald stood at the podium, his navy suit crisp, his jaw set with the kind of confidence that came from building empires. The reporter smiled, pen poised over her notepad. "Mr. Oswald, what drives your passion for this new AI ethics initiative?" Henry leaned into the microphone, about to deliver the answer his PR team had crafted. But before he could speak, a small voice pierced through the crowd of investors and journalists. "Daddy?" The room went silent. Every head turned. Security guards shifted, looking for the source. And there, weaving between the legs of strangers, was a little girl in a pink dress with flower barrettes holding back her curls. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old. Henry's assistant grabbed his arm. "Sir, should I?" But Henry raised his hand. Wait. His heart was doing something strange in his chest. Something ancient. Something cellular. He stepped down from the stage, his Italian leather shoes clicking against the marble floor. The crowd parted. He knelt down in front of the child, eye to eye. "Sweetheart," he said, his voice softer than anyone in that room had ever heard it. "Why did you call me that?" The little girl reached up with one small hand and touched the corner of his eye. Her fingers were sticky with something, probably candy. She tilted her head, studying his face with an intensity that made his breath catch. "You have my eyes," she said simply, "and you look lonely, like in my dreams." Henry's throat tightened. Those eyes, deep brown with flecks of gold. He'd seen those eyes every morning in the mirror for 32 years. "What's your name?" he whispered. "Clara Rose Monroe." "I'm 6. What's your name?" "Henry." Clara smiled, revealing a missing front tooth. "That's a nice name." "Who's your mama, Henry?" He almost laughed. "Almost." "No, sweetheart. Who's your mama?" "Oh, Sarah Monroe. She's at work. She's always at work. But it's okay because she tries really hard." The security chief appeared at Henry's shoulder, speaking low. "Sir, we're trying to locate the parent. Should we?" "No." Henry's voice was firm. He looked back at Clara. "Where's your mama now, Clara?" "She cleans offices. The big building with the bird on top. She said she'd be done at 5 and Mrs. Park was supposed to watch me at my piano thing. But I saw you, and I wanted to say hi to my daddy, so I—" "Mr. Oswald." His assistant James was holding out a phone, his face pale. "We found her mother. She's on her way." 20 minutes later, the security office door burst open and a woman rushed in, her eyes wild with panic. She wore a gray cleaning uniform with the logo of a janitorial company stitched on the chest. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun. She was breathing hard, like she'd run the whole way. "Clara." The little girl looked up from the cookies a security guard had given her. "Mama, I found him. I found Daddy." Sarah Monroe pulled her daughter behind her in one swift motion, her body a wall between Clara and everyone else in that room. "She's confused. We need to go." But Henry was staring at her, really staring, and the world was tilting. "You," he breathed. The woman's eyes met his, dark brown, guarded, exhausted. And something clicked in his mind like a puzzle piece falling into place after 6 years of searching. "The storm," he said. "The hotel. You're real." Her jaw tightened. Don't you dare pretend you care now. Pretend." "I've been trying to remember that night for 6 years." Sarah's laugh was bitter. "Convenient memory loss. Must be nice." "It wasn't convenient." Henry's voice rose. "It was hell. Waking up in a hospital with gaps in my mind, knowing something profound happened but not being able to stop." Her hand went up. "Just stop." Clara tugged on her mother's uniform. "Mama, why are you mad at Daddy? He's not your—" Sarah's voice broke. She closed her eyes, composing herself. When she opened them, they were cold. "We're leaving. Is she mine?" Henry's question cut through the air like glass. The security guards shifted uncomfortably. James stepped forward. "Sir, perhaps we should move this somewhere more private." Sarah's eyes flashed. "There's nothing private to discuss." "The hell there isn't." Henry moved closer. Is she mine? For a long moment, Sarah just looked at him, and in her eyes, Henry saw years of pain, of struggle, of nights spent alone. Then she spoke, her voice low and sharp. Does it matter? You left. I didn't know. You didn't care to know. I woke up in a hospital. Henry's hands were shaking now. They told me I was found behind a truck stop. I had no memory of how I got there, no memory of using a naive girl for one night and disappearing. The slap came so fast Henry didn't see it coming. The sound cracked through the small office. His cheek burned. Security moved forward, but he waved them back. Sarah's hand trembled at her side. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice was steady. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to raise a child alone? To be fired, shamed, to lose everything? You think I wanted my daughter to grow up asking every single day why her father didn't love her? Clara started crying, soft, confused sobs that broke something in Henry's chest. He reached for Sarah, but she stepped back. Don't touch me. Please, please, just let me. You want to know if she's yours? Fine, we'll do a DNA test. You'll get your answer, and then you can go back to your perfect life, and we'll go back to ours. Sarah, my name is Ms. Monroe to you. She grabbed Clara's hand and walked toward the door. Henry watched them go, his mind screaming at him to say something, do something, but his body was frozen. Clara looked back over her shoulder, her small face streaked with tears. Bye, Daddy. I'm sorry Mama's mad. She gets scared sometimes. Then they were gone. James cleared his throat. Sir, the press is still outside. We need to make a statement. But Henry couldn't move. He was staring at the spot where the little girl had been standing. The little girl with his eyes. The little girl who called him Daddy, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Sir, I need to know, Henry whispered. I need to know what happened that night. If you've ever felt forgotten, or if you've ever had to face something alone, this story is for you. Because what I'm about to tell you is about a night that changed 3 lives forever. A night that one person can't remember and another person can't forget. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's go back 6 years to a storm that destroyed everything and revealed what was buried all along. 6 years ago, Henry Oswald was a different man. Oh, he had the same face, the same name, the same billion-dollar company. But inside, where it counted, he was hollow. The headlines called him a visionary. Forbes put him on their cover with the caption, "The Man Who Built Tomorrow." At 32, he'd already revolutionized artificial intelligence, pioneered ethical tech solutions, and turned Oswald Industries into a global powerhouse. But success has a way of masking pain, and Henry's pain was the kind that ate you from the inside out. It started with his business partner, Marcus Hale. They'd built the company together, 2 kids fresh out of MIT with more dreams than sense. Marcus was the charismatic one, the people person. Henry was the genius, the one who actually made the technology work. For 8 years, they were unstoppable. Until Henry discovered that Marcus had been embezzling for the last 3, $50 million, funneled through shell companies and offshore accounts. And when Henry confronted him, Marcus didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. It's just business, Henry. You're too soft for this world anyway. The betrayal hit like a physical blow, but it was nothing compared to what came next. 2 weeks after Marcus was arrested, Henry's younger brother Ethan was found dead in his apartment. Suicide, pills and alcohol, the medical examiner said. Quick and quiet. They found the note in Ethan's wallet. 4 words in shaky handwriting. I'm tired, brother. Tired. Henry read it 17 times before his legs gave out. Because the truth was, he'd known. He'd seen the signs. The canceled lunches, the unreturned calls, the distance in Ethan's eyes the last time they'd spoken. But Henry had been too busy with the company, too focused on the Marcus situation, too wrapped up in his own problems to really see. And now Ethan was gone. The guilt was a living thing, wrapped around Henry's lungs, making it hard to breathe. His therapist prescribed medication. His assistant scheduled wellness retreats. His friends, the few real ones he had left, told him time would heal, But time just made it worse. 3 months after Ethan's funeral, Henry stood in his penthouse apartment, looking out at the city lights, and felt nothing. Just a vast, empty nothing where his heart used to be. He needed to disappear, just for a while, just long enough to figure out if he wanted to keep existing in this world. So he drove, 6 hours north, to a place where no one knew his face. The Ivory Pines Resort, a mid-range hotel tucked into the mountains. The kind of place where wealthy people didn't go. Perfect. He checked in under a false name, Daniel Cross, paid cash, told the front desk he didn't want to be disturbed. The room was clean but impersonal. Beige walls, standard artwork, a bed that had seen 10,000 strangers. Henry sat on the edge of that bed and stared at the bottle of pills in his hand. His prescription, 30 days worth of little white tablets that were supposed to make him want to live. He wondered what would happen if he took them all at once. The thought didn't scare him. That was the worst part. The thought felt like relief. Thunder rumbled outside. A storm was rolling in, the kind that turned the sky green and made the air taste like metal. Henry watched the rain start to fall, drops hitting the window like tiny fists. Phone buzzed. James, his assistant, checking in for the 3rd time that day. "I'm fine," Henry texted back. A lie. Just need space. He turned the phone off. The rain got heavier. The wind picked up. And somewhere in Henry's chest, something cracked open. He stood up, walked to the window, pressed his forehead against the cold glass. "I can't do this anymore," he whispered to no one. And then he left the room. He didn't know where he was going. He just knew he couldn't stay still, couldn't be alone with his thoughts for one more second. The hotel corridors were quiet. Most guests were in their rooms, hiding from the storm. Henry walked without direction, his feet carrying him through turns and downstairs. He ended up outside rain, soaking through his shirt in seconds. The cold was shocking. Good. He wanted to feel something, even if it was just cold. He walked around the building, to the back where the staff quarters were. And that's when his body gave out. Later, he wouldn't remember falling, wouldn't remember the way his vision tunneled, or how the ground rushed up to meet him. All he would remember was the rain, and the darkness, and a voice that said, "You're safe now." Sarah Monroe was 19 years old, and she'd already lived 3 lifetimes worth of hard. Her parents died in a car accident when she was 15. One moment she was a normal teenager worried about geometry tests and whether boys liked her. The next moment she was an orphan, standing in a funeral home in a borrowed black dress, listening to a social worker explain how the system worked. But Sarah had her grandmother, Rose Monroe, 72 years old and sharp as a tack. She took Sarah in without hesitation, loved her without condition, gave her a home when the world had taken everything else. For 4 years, they made it work. Sarah finished high school, worked part-time at a diner, dreamed about college. She wanted to study music therapy, wanted to help people heal through sound the way her grandmother's lullabies had helped her heal after losing her parents. But then Rose got sick. Stage 4, pancreatic cancer. 6 months, maybe a year if they were lucky. The treatments were expensive. Sarah's part-time diner job wasn't enough. So she took a second job, then a third. The Ivory Pines Resort hired her as a night maid. The work was hard, the hours were brutal, but it paid better than the diner. She'd work the morning shift at the diner, spend the afternoon at the hospital with her grandmother, then clock in at the hotel at 10 p.m. and work until 6 in the morning. Sleep became a luxury. Dreams became something other people had. But she never complained. Not when her manager, Mr. Daniels, yelled at her for being too slow. Not when guests left her rooms trashed and tipped nothing. Not when her body ached so badly she wanted to cry. Because Rose was still alive. Still smiling when Sarah walked into that hospital room. Still humming those old lullabies. And as long as her grandmother was fighting, Sarah would fight too. The night the storm came, Sarah was on her usual shift. She'd cleaned 12 rooms already, her hands raw from chemicals, her back screaming from bending over bathtubs. She had 4 more rooms to go before she could take her break. The storm didn't bother her. She actually liked the sound of rain. It reminded her of being small, curled up in her grandmother's lap, listening to stories while thunder rolled overhead. She was walking through the staff corridor, pushing her cleaning cart, when she heard something. A thud, heavy, like something falling. Sarah stopped, listened. Rain pounded against the walls. Wind rattled the windows. There, another sound, a groan, low and pained. She abandoned her cart and followed the sound. Around the corner, slumped against the wall near the staff entrance, was a man. He was soaked through, his expensive-looking shirt plastered to his skin. His eyes were half closed, his face pale. Sarah's first instinct was to call security, but something stopped her. Maybe it was the way he was trembling. Maybe it was the look in his eyes, that hollow, broken look she'd seen in her own mirror after her parents died. Or maybe it was just that she knew what it felt like to be alone and hurting. She dropped to her knees beside him. "Sir, can you hear me?" His eyes focused on her, barely. "I'm sorry," he mumbled. "I'm so sorry." "It's okay. You're okay. Can you stand?" He tried, failed. His legs weren't working right. Sarah made a decision. She was 5'4" and 120 pounds, and this man was easily 6 feet and twice her weight. But she got her shoulder under his arm and pulled. "Come on," she grunted. "Help me out here." He tried. Together, they managed to get him upright. He leaned on her heavily as she half-dragged, half-carried him down the corridor. She couldn't take him to a guest room. If anyone saw her with a guest in a compromising position, she'd be fired on the spot. Mr. Daniels had made that very clear, so she took him to the only place she could, the small staff room where she sometimes napped on her breaks. It had a cot, a sink, a space heater that barely worked. She got him inside and lowered him onto the cot. His teeth were chattering. His skin was ice cold. Hypothermia, Sarah thought. He'd been outside in the rain too long. She grabbed towels from her cart and started drying him off. His shirt was soaked through, so she carefully unbuttoned it, trying not to think about how inappropriate this was. This was medical. This was helping someone who needed help. His skin was pale, almost blue in places. She wrapped him in every blanket she could find, then turned the space heater to max. "Don't leave," he whispered suddenly, his hand grabbing hers. "Please don't leave me." His eyes were open now, looking at her with such desperate vulnerability that her heart cracked. "I won't," she promised. "I'm right here." She sat beside the cot, holding his hand, and waited for his shivering to stop. Minutes passed, maybe an hour. The storm raged outside. The space heater hummed, and gradually, his color came back. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice stronger now. "Sarah." "I'm Daniel." The lie came automatically. He'd checked in under that name, and his foggy mind clung to it. "Okay, Daniel, you're safe now." He closed his eyes. "Am I?" "Yes. I don't feel safe. I haven't felt safe in so long." Sarah didn't know what to say to that. So she did what her grandmother used to do for her. She hummed, soft and low, a melody without words. A lullaby Rose had sung to her 1,000 times. Daniel's grip on her hand relaxed. His breathing evened out. "That's beautiful," he whispered. "My grandmother taught me. She must be special." "She is." Sarah's voice cracked. "She's dying." She didn't know why she said it. She never talked about her grandmother's illness with anyone. But something about this moment, this stranger, the storm outside, it made her want to be honest. "I'm sorry," Daniel said. "Me too." They sat in silence for a while. Then he spoke again. "My brother killed himself." Sarah's breath caught. She looked down at him. His eyes were still closed, but tears were sliding down his temples. "I should have saved him," he continued. "I should have seen, but I was too busy, too focused on work, on success, on things that don't matter. And now he's gone, and I can't fix it. I can't fix anything. It's not your fault." "How do you know?" "Because people who care enough to blame themselves are usually not the ones at fault." He opened his eyes then, really looked at her. "You're very wise for 19. How did you know I'm 19? Your name tag and your eyes. You have old eyes." Sarah almost smiled. So do you. I'm 32, and I feel ancient. I'm 19, and I feel the same. Something shifted in the air between them. A recognition. Two people who'd been worn down by life, finding each other in the middle of a storm. Daniel sat up slowly. Sarah should have moved back, but she didn't. He reached out and touched her face, gentle, questioning. Tell me to stop, he said. Shishav. This was wrong on so many levels. He was a guest, she was staff. She barely knew him. This could cost her everything. But she was so tired of being alone, so tired of being strong. And when he leaned forward and kissed her, soft and tentative, she didn't pull away. What happened next was gentle, careful. He kept asking if she was okay, if she was sure. And she kept saying yes, even though her hands were shaking. It was her first time. It hurt a little, but not as much as she'd expected. Mostly, it felt like connection, like being seen, like, for just a moment, not being alone. Afterward, they lay tangled together on the small cot, the storm still raging outside. Sarah's head was on his chest. His fingers traced patterns on her shoulder. Thank you, he whispered. For what? For making me feel human again. She wanted to tell him that he'd done the same for her, that this was the first time in months she'd felt something other than exhaustion and grief. But she was suddenly shy. Instead, she hummed that lullaby again. And he fell asleep to the sound of her voice. Sarah woke up alone. The storm had passed. Gray morning light filtered through the small window. The cot beside her was empty, the blanket still warm. She sat up, her body aching in new ways. For a moment, she thought maybe he'd just stepped out, gone to the bathroom, or to get his things. But deep down, she knew. She got dressed quickly, her uniform wrinkled from being on the floor all night. She checked the corridor. Empty. She went to the front desk. Excuse me, did Daniel Cross check out? The clerk checked his computer. Yes. Early checkout at 5 a.m., paid his bill and left. Did he leave a message? Or a number? The clerk looked at her strangely. No. Should he have? Sarah's face burned. No, never mind. She walked away, her heart sinking. What did she expect? A love note? A promise to call? She'd known what this was. A moment of comfort between two broken people. Nothing more. She went back to the staff room, cleaned up the evidence of the night, changed the sheets on the cot, threw away the towels, erased every trace like it had never happened. And then she went back to work. 4 weeks later, Sarah stood in the bathroom of her grandmother's hospital room, staring at a positive pregnancy test. No. She took 2 more tests, both positive. Her hands started shaking so badly she had to sit down on the closed toilet seat. This couldn't be happening. She was 19. She worked 3 jobs. Her grandmother was dying. She couldn't handle a baby. But even as panic flooded her system, another feeling crept in. Smaller, quieter. Hope. She'd felt so alone for so long. And yes, this was terrifying. Yes, this was the worst possible timing. But this baby, this tiny cluster of cells inside her, was hers. Hers to love. Hers to protect. She wouldn't be completely alone anymore. Sarah walked out of the bathroom. Her grandmother was sleeping, the machines around her bed beeping softly. She looked so small in that hospital bed. So fragile. I'm pregnant, Grandma. Sarah whispered. I'm scared and I don't know what to do. But I'm going to keep it. I hope that's okay. Rose didn't wake up, but Sarah imagined she would have smiled, would have taken her hand and told her everything would be all right. 2 weeks later, Rose died peacefully in her sleep. Sarah buried her grandmother on a Tuesday, went back to work on Wednesday, and on Thursday, Mr. Daniels called her into his office. I've received some concerning reports, he said, his face pinched with disapproval. What kind of reports? That you've been fraternizing with guests. That you were seen entering the staff quarters with a male guest during your shift. Sarah's blood ran cold. Someone had seen her with Daniel. I was helping someone who was sick. That's not your job. Your job is to clean rooms, not play nurse to drunk guests. He wasn't drunk. He was... I don't care. The Ivory Pines has a reputation to uphold, and we can't have staff who blur professional boundaries. Sarah saw where this was going. Please, I need this job. You should have thought of that before. Mr. Daniel slid a piece of paper across his desk. Your termination is effective immediately. You'll receive your final paycheck in the mail. Please, my grandmother just died. I have medical bills. I can't afford to lose this job. His expression didn't change. I'm sorry for your loss, but my decision is final. Please collect your things and leave the premises. Sarah wanted to scream, wanted to cry, wanted to tell him that she was pregnant and alone, and if she lost this job, she'd lose everything. But she had too much pride for that, so she stood up, lifted her chin, and walked out with her dignity intact. She cried in her car for an hour. Then she dried her eyes, drove to the diner, and picked up an extra shift. 1 month later, Sarah moved to a neighboring city, somewhere no one knew her, somewhere she could start over without the weight of everyone's judgment. She found a tiny one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat. It was loud and it smelled like detergent, but it was cheap and the landlord didn't ask too many questions. She worked right up until the day she went into labor, cleaning houses, doing laundry, anything that paid cash under the table. She saved every penny, preparing for the moment when she couldn't work anymore. And on a freezing January night, Sarah gave birth alone in a county hospital. No family in the waiting room. No partner holding her hand, just her and the nurses and the overwhelming pain. But when they placed that tiny baby on her chest, everything changed. The baby girl had a tuft of dark hair and the most beautiful eyes Sarah had ever seen. Deep brown with flecks of gold. Daniel's eyes. No, not Daniel. She didn't even know his real name. This baby was hers. Only hers. What are we going to name her? The nurse asked. Sarah looked down at her daughter, this tiny perfect miracle. Clara, she said. Clara Rose Monroe. Clara Rose, after the grandmother who'd saved Sarah when she had nothing, after the woman who'd taught her that love was stronger than loss. Hello, Clara, Sarah whispered. It's just you and me, baby girl. But I promise I'll be enough. I promise I'll give you everything. Clara yawned, her tiny fist curling around Sarah's finger, and Sarah fell completely, irrevocably in love. The first year was the hardest. Sarah went back to work when Clara was 6 weeks old, strapping her baby to her chest while she cleaned houses. Some clients complained. Others thought it was charming. Sarah didn't care either way. She just needed the money. At night, she'd collapse into bed, Clara sleeping in a bassinet beside her. She was so tired she sometimes forgot to eat. So overwhelmed she sometimes cried in the shower where Clara couldn't hear, but she never regretted it. Not once. Clara was a good baby. Quiet, observant, rarely fussed. She'd watch Sarah work with those big brown eyes, tracking her movements like she was studying the world. By the time Clara turned 1, Sarah had found a rhythm. 3 steady cleaning jobs during the day. A neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who watched Clara for cheap. A tiny but stable life. By the time Clara turned 2, she was talking in full sentences. Smart, so incredibly smart, it sometimes scared Sarah. Mama, why is the sky blue? Mama, where do numbers come from? Mama, why don't I have a daddy? That last question came when Clara was 3. They were at the park, watching other families. A father was pushing his daughter on the swing, both of them laughing. Clara pointed. Why doesn't that girl's mama push her? Her daddy's pushing her, sweetheart. What's a daddy? Sarah's heart clenched. She'd known this conversation was coming, but she wasn't ready. A daddy is a person who helps make a baby. Like how I'm your mama. Where's my daddy? Sarah knelt down, eye level with her daughter. Your daddy isn't here, baby. But that's okay. We have each other. Did he not want me? The question broke Sarah's heart into 1,000 pieces. He doesn't know about you, Sarah said carefully. But if he did, he would love you so much, because you're the most lovable person in the whole world. Clara seemed to accept this, for a while. But as she got older, the questions got harder. Why doesn't my daddy visit? Can we call him? Does he know my name? Sarah learned to deflect, to change the subject, to shield Clara from the truth that she herself didn't fully understand. How could she explain to her daughter that she'd given herself to a stranger, that she didn't even know his real name, that it was a moment of weakness and connection that resulted in the best thing that ever happened to her? She couldn't, so she didn't. Instead, she worked harder, saved more, determined to give Clara everything she needed so she'd never feel the absence of a father. When Clara turned 5, her kindergarten teacher called Sarah in for a meeting. "Clara is exceptional," Mrs. Chen said. "Different Mrs. Chen than the neighbor. Her reading level is advanced, her math skills are off the charts, and she has this incredible emotional intelligence." Sarah felt pride swell in her chest. "She's a special kid." "She is. But I'm concerned." "About what?" "She talks a lot about an imaginary friend, which is normal for kids her age. But the things she says are a bit unusual." Sarah frowned. "What kind of things?" "She calls him Mr. Storm, says he visits her in dreams, tells her she's loved and special, that he's sorry he can't be there, but he's looking for her." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. "That's just imagination, right?" "Probably. But the way she describes him is very specific. Tall, sad eyes, always wears blue. She draws pictures of him constantly." Mrs. Chen pulled out a folder of Clara's artwork, page after page of the same figure. A tall man with brown and gold scribbled in for eyes, always holding a small girl's hand. Sarah stared at the drawings, her hands trembling. "Ms. Monroe, are you all right?" "Fine. I'm fine. It's just an active imagination." But it wasn't fine, because Clara was describing a man she'd never met, a man whose eyes she'd inherited, a man who didn't even know she existed. That night, Sarah almost Googled Daniel Cross, almost tried to find him, but what would she say? "Hi, remember that night 6 years ago? Here's your daughter." No, that wasn't fair to Clara. The man had abandoned her once, even if he didn't remember it. She wouldn't give him the chance to do it again. By the time Clara turned 6, Sarah had built a life she was proud of. They'd moved to a slightly bigger apartment. Sarah had steady work as a lead housekeeper for a property management company. Clara was in 1st grade, thriving despite their limited resources. It wasn't perfect. Money was always tight. Sarah still worked too many hours. Clara still asked about her father, but they were happy. Most days, they were happy. And then, everything changed. It was a Saturday in June. Sarah had the day off, a rare gift. She and Clara decided to go downtown, get ice cream, enjoy the sunshine. They sat on a bench outside the ice cream shop, Clara with chocolate, Sarah with vanilla. Across the street, there was some kind of corporate event happening. Lots of fancy cars, people in suits, photographers. Clara watched with interest, chocolate ice cream smeared across her cheek. "Mama, what are those people doing?" "Some kind of fancy party, I think." "Why are they so dressed up?" "Because they're important business people." Clara considered this, licking her ice cream thoughtfully. Then her eyes caught on something. A billboard on the building behind the event. A massive photograph of a man in a dark blue suit, standing in front of a sleek skyscraper. The text read, "Oswald Industries, building the future." Clara went very still. Her ice cream dripped onto her dress, but she didn't notice. "Mama," she whispered. "What, baby?" "That's Daddy." Sarah's ice cream fell from her hand. It hit the sidewalk and exploded, vanilla splashing across the concrete. But she didn't notice because she was staring at the billboard, at the man in the blue suit, at the man with brown eyes flecked with gold, at Daniel Cross. Except the billboard didn't say Daniel Cross. It said Henry Oswald. And suddenly, 6 years of questions had an answer. The stranger who'd given her one night of connection, one moment of not being alone, one chance at creating Clara, wasn't some random guest passing through. He was Henry Oswald, billionaire, tech genius, one of the most powerful men in the country. And he'd lied to her about everything. Sarah grabbed Clara's hand, pulling her up from the bench. "Mama, you're hurting me." Sarah loosened her grip immediately, her heart racing, I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. We just need to go home. But Mama, that's him. That's Mr. Storm. That's my daddy from my dreams. Clara, stop. That's not... Sarah's voice broke. How did you tell your 6-year-old that her imaginary friend wasn't real? That her father was real but he'd left them? That the man on the billboard had no idea either of them existed? Please, can we go say hi? Clara was pulling toward the event now, her small hand tugging against Sarah's grip. No, we can't. Why not? Because he doesn't know us, Clara. Her daughter's face crumpled. But he's my daddy. Sarah knelt down on the sidewalk, not caring about the people staring. She took Clara's face in her hands. Listen to me, baby. That man up there, he's not part of our life. And that's okay. We have each other. We're enough. But what if he wants to meet me? He doesn't know about you. Then we should tell him. It's not that simple. Why not? Because he's rich and powerful, and we're nobody, Sarah thought. Because he'll think I'm trying to trap him. Because he left me with nothing, and I built a life from that nothing, and I will not let him destroy what we have. But she couldn't say any of that. So she said, because some things are complicated, sweetheart. And you need to trust Mama on this. Clara's lower lip trembled, but she nodded. They walked back to their car in silence. And that night, after Clara fell asleep, Sarah sat at her laptop and typed in the name, Henry Oswald. Pages of results flooded the screen. Articles about his company, his innovations, his philanthropy. Photos of him at galas, shaking hands with politicians, speaking at conferences. And there, buried in an article from 6 years ago, tech CEO takes leave after personal crisis. Sarah clicked the link. The article was brief, carefully worded. Henry Oswald stepping back from his company to focus on mental health, following the death of his brother and stress from corporate pressures. Expected to return in 6 months. The timeline matched. 6 years ago, the same time he'd been at the hotel. Another article, dated a few months later. Henry Oswald hospitalized following incident. The details were vague. Found unconscious. Memory issues. Complete recovery expected. Memory issues. He really didn't remember. This wasn't a cruel man abandoning her. This was a broken man who'd lost pieces of himself. Sarah closed the laptop, her hands shaking. Part of her wanted to reach out, to tell him, to give Clara the father she longed for. But the bigger part of her was terrified. Terrified of being rejected. Terrified of Clara being hurt. Terrified that his world would swallow them whole and spit them out. So, she made a decision. They would continue as they had been. Just the two of them against the world. It was safer that way. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. 2 weeks passed. Sarah tried to forget about the billboard, about Henry Oswald, about all of it. She threw herself into work, into being the best mother she could be. But Clara wouldn't let it go. Mama, can we go back downtown? Why, baby? I want to see the building with Daddy's picture. Clara, we talked about this, but you said he doesn't know about me. Maybe if he sees me, he'll remember. Maybe he's been looking for us. Sarah's heart broke a little more each time. It doesn't work like that, sweetheart. How do you know if we don't try? Sarah didn't have an answer for that. Then came Clara's summer piano recital. Sarah had saved for months to buy her daughter a used keyboard. Clara had taught herself to play using free YouTube tutorials, her small fingers flying across the keys with natural talent. The recital was at the community center, nothing fancy, just proud parents and nervous kids. Sarah had a shift at work that overlapped, but she'd arranged to leave early. She asked their neighbor, Mrs. Park, to take Clara and get her settled. I'll be there before she plays, Sarah promised. I wouldn't miss it. Mrs. Park, a kind woman in her 60s, smiled. Don't worry. I'll take good care of her. Sarah kissed Clara's forehead. You're going to be amazing, baby. I'll be there soon. Promise? Promise. But Sarah's shift ran long. A pipe burst in one of the buildings she was cleaning. By the time she got it sorted and rushed to the community center, she was 30 minutes late. She burst through the doors, her uniform still damp from the pipe disaster, and found Mrs. Park in the lobby, looking frantic. Where is she? Sarah demanded. I don't know. She played her piece beautifully, And then she said she needed the bathroom, but she never came back. I've looked everywhere. Sarah's blood turned to ice. Did you call the police? I was about to when you arrived. I thought maybe she went looking for you. Sarah pulled out her phone with shaking hands and dialed Clara's number. She'd given her daughter a basic flip phone for emergencies. It rang and rang, then went to voicemail. Clara, baby, where are you? Call Mama right now. I'm not mad, I just need to know you're safe. She hung up and looked at Mrs. Park. Where did you last see her? The hallway near the bathrooms. Sarah ran. She checked every bathroom, every classroom, the parking lot. Nothing. She was about to call 911 when her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Ms. Monroe? This is James Chen, assistant to Henry Oswald. We have your daughter here at the Tech Expo across the street. She's safe. The relief that flooded through Sarah was immediately replaced by dread. I'm coming right now. She ran out of the community center and across the street. The Tech Expo was in full swing, a massive event with hundreds of people. Security stopped her at the door. I need to get in. My daughter is in there. Do you have credentials? No, but someone called me. James Chen. He said my daughter. The security guard spoke into his radio. A moment later, a man in a suit appeared. Tall, Asian, early 30s, with kind eyes. Ms. Monroe? I'm James. Please, come with me. He led her through the crowd, past booths showcasing the latest technology, past investors in expensive suits. And then she saw her, Clara, sitting in a security office, eating cookies and talking animatedly to a man kneeling in front of her. Henry Oswald. Sarah's world tilted. She'd seen his face on screens, on billboards, in articles. But seeing him in person, seeing him with her daughter, was different. He looked older than in the hotel. His dark hair had threads of gray at the temples. There were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. But those eyes, God, those eyes were the same. And he was looking at Clara like she was the most precious thing he'd ever seen. Clara! Both of them looked up. Clara's face lit up. Mama, I found him. I found Daddy. Sarah rushed forward and pulled Clara behind her, her body automatically shielding her daughter. She's confused. We need to go. Henry stood slowly, and when his eyes met hers, she saw the exact moment recognition hit him. You, he breathed. The security office suddenly felt too small. Sarah couldn't breathe. She needed to get out of here, needed to take Clara and run before everything fell apart. Don't, she said, her voice sharp. Don't pretend you care now. Henry took a step closer. Pretend? I've spent 6 years trying to remember. Convenient memory loss. Sarah cut him off. Must be nice to forget the people you use. His face went pale. It wasn't like that. I woke up in a hospital. They told me I was found behind a truck stop miles away from the hotel. I had gaps in my memory. I've been in therapy trying to piece together what happened that night. And did you piece it together? Fragments, a storm, a melody. Someone saying I was safe, and a feeling that something important happened, something I lost. His eyes moved to Clara, then back to Sarah. Is she mine? The question hung in the air like a blade. Sarah's hands were shaking. She wanted to lie, to grab Clara and disappear. But one look at their daughter, at those identical brown and gold eyes, and she knew the truth was already written on Clara's face. Does it matter? Sarah's voice cracked. You left. I didn't know. You didn't care to know. I was in a mental hospital. Henry's voice rose, then immediately lowered when he saw Clara flinch. I was suicidal. My brother had just died. My business partner had betrayed me. I was lost and broken, and that night I went looking for a way to end it. But then someone found me. Someone helped me. Someone made me want to live again. His eyes were pleading now. I've spent 6 years wondering if that person was real, or if my mind invented her because I needed hope so badly. And now you're standing here, and she's real. And... He looked at Clara again. Is she mine? Sarah felt tears burning behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. We need to leave. Please, please just tell me. James cleared his throat. Sir, perhaps we should move this conversation somewhere more private. The press is starting to gather outside. Henry ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Sarah remembered from that night. Yes, right. Sarah, please, just give me an hour. Let's talk somewhere quiet, away from cameras. I don't owe you anything. No, you don't. But she deserves to know the truth, doesn't she? Sarah looked down at Clara, who was watching both of them with wide, confused eyes. Are you fighting about me? Clara asked in a small voice. No, baby, Sarah said automatically. Yes, Henry said at the same time. Then, more gently, we're just trying to figure some things out, sweetheart. Clara looked up at him. Are you mad at me for calling you Daddy? Henry's expression softened in a way that made Sarah's chest ache. He knelt down again, eye level with Clara. I could never be mad at you. Never. But Mama's mad. Mama's not mad, Sarah interjected, though her voice was tight. Mama's just surprised. Will you come with us? Henry asked Sarah, just to talk. James can arrange a private room. No press, no public spectacle, just us. Sarah wanted to say no. Every instinct screamed at her to protect herself, to protect Clara from the inevitable disappointment. But Clara was looking at her with such hope, such desperate hope, that Sarah couldn't refuse. 1 hour, she said, and then we're leaving. James led them to a conference room on the building's top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. There was a long table with leather chairs, abstract art on the walls. It was the kind of room where million-dollar deals were made. Sarah had never felt more out of place in her life. She sat down, pulling Clara onto her lap. Henry sat across from them, his hands folded on the table. James stood by the door. Can I get you anything? James asked. Water, coffee, something for Clara? We're fine, Sarah said quickly. Actually, Clara piped up, do you have apple juice? James smiled. I'll check. He left the room. Silence descended. Henry stared at Clara, then at Sarah, then back at Clara. She has my eyes, he said quietly. I know. And your face, your nose, your mouth. She's beautiful. Sarah's grip on Clara tightened. Don't what? Don't try to charm your way into our lives. We've been fine without you for 6 years. We'll be fine for 6 more. Henry flinched. I'm not trying to charm anyone. I'm just trying to understand. How old is she? 6. When's her birthday? January 14th. Henry pulled out his phone, fingers moving quickly. Sarah watched him count backward, watched realization dawn. 9 months after that night, he whispered. She's mine. She has to be. Biology doesn't make you a father. Then let me be one. Let me try. Why? So you can play dad for a few weeks and then disappear when it gets hard? When the press finds out you have an illegitimate child with a cleaning lady? Henry's jaw tightened. I would never. You already did. You disappeared once. What's to stop you from doing it again? I didn't. No. Each word was punctuated, forceful. I woke up in a hospital bed with my assistant telling me I'd been found unconscious, that I'd been missing for 12 hours, that they thought I'd tried to kill myself. I had bruises I couldn't explain, gaps in my memory, and a melody stuck in my head that I couldn't place. He stood up, started pacing. I spent 2 years in therapy trying to recover those lost hours. My therapist said my mind was protecting me from trauma, that sometimes the brain blocks out memories, too painful to process. I thought I'd imagined you. I thought my mind created a guardian angel because I couldn't accept that I'd tried to end my life and failed. Sarah stared at him. You really don't remember? I remember pieces. Rain, being cold, a voice saying I was safe, someone humming, warmth, and feeling, for the first time in months, like living might be worth it. His eyes locked on hers. I remember brown eyes that looked at me like I mattered. But I thought it was a dream, a hallucination, until right now. Clara squirmed in Sarah's lap. Mama, can I get down? My legs are falling asleep. Sarah loosened her grip. Okay, baby, but stay in the room. Clara slid down and immediately went to the windows, pressing her nose against the glass. Wow, You can see everything from up here. Henry smiled slightly. You can. Do you like high places? I've never been this high before. Except on a plane once, but I was a baby, so I don't remember. Where were you flying to? We weren't. Mama cleans planes sometimes at the airport. She took me to work one day and we went inside a big plane. It was so cool. Henry's eyes cut to Sarah. The look on his face was complicated. Pity, guilt, something else she couldn't name. Sarah lifted her chin. We do what we have to do. I'm not judging. I'm just... He stopped, ran his hand through his hair again. I want to help. We don't need your help. Maybe not. But she's my daughter. If she's my daughter, I have a responsibility. You don't get to decide that. Then what do you want from me? Tell me what you want and I'll do it. Sarah laughed, bitter and sharp. What I want the last 6 years back. I want to not have been fired from my job because someone saw me helping a suicidal guest. I want to not have buried my grandmother alone. I want to not have given birth in a county hospital with no one holding my hand. I want my daughter to not have spent 6 years asking why her daddy doesn't love her. Henry looked like he'd been punched. She asked that every day, for 6 years, every single day. I didn't know she existed. I know that now. But it doesn't change what happened. It doesn't change that I built a life from nothing while you went back to your penthouse and your company and your perfect life. My life wasn't perfect, Henry said quietly. I was barely functioning. I had panic attacks, nightmares. I couldn't trust anyone because everyone I'd ever trusted had either died or betrayed me. The only thing that kept me going was work, and even that felt hollow. He walked to the window, stood next to Clara. What's your favorite thing you can see from up here? Clara pointed. That building with the green roof. It looks like a turtle. Henry smiled. It does, doesn't it? I never noticed that before. Grown-ups don't notice a lot of things. Mama says it's because they're too busy. Your mama sounds very wise. Clara looked up at him seriously. She is. She's the smartest person I know. And the strongest. She works really hard so I can have things. What kind of things? Like my keyboard. I wanted a piano, but they're expensive. So Mama saved and got me a keyboard for Christmas. She said if I practice really hard, maybe one day I'll have a real piano. Do you like music? I love it. Mama taught me a lullaby her grandma taught her. It's my favorite song in the whole world. Henry went very still. Can you sing it for me? Clara looked back at Sarah. Can I, Mama? Sarah's throat was tight. She knew what would happen if Clara sang that song. Knew it would confirm everything. But she nodded anyway. Clara's voice was sweet and clear, untrained but beautiful. She hummed the melody Sarah had hummed that night 6 years ago. The melody her grandmother Rose had hummed to her as a child. Henry's eyes closed. His hand went to his chest like it hurt. That's it, he whispered. That's the melody. I've heard it in my dreams for 6 years. Clara stopped humming. You have? I have. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Mama sings it to me when I'm sad or scared. She says it's magic. I think she's right. James knocked and entered with a juice box. Clara took it gratefully and plopped down on one of the leather chairs, swinging her legs. Henry turned to Sarah. I want to take a DNA test, just to be absolutely certain. And then I want to be in her life, in both of your lives. You can't just buy your way in. I'm not trying to buy anything. I'm trying to do the right thing. The right thing was being there from the beginning. I can't change the past, but I can show up now. Let me show up, Sarah. She wanted to say no, wanted to protect herself and Clara from the inevitable heartbreak. But looking at her daughter, seeing the hope on her face as she looked at Henry, Sarah couldn't find the words. A DNA test, she finally said. We'll do the test, and then we'll see. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This doesn't mean anything. This just means we're confirming biology. Nothing more, but in her heart, Sarah knew it was already more than that. The DNA test was done 3 days later at a private medical facility. Henry arranged everything, sent a car to pick them up. Sarah almost refused the car, but Clara was so excited about riding in a fancy car that she couldn't say no. The test itself was simple. A swab of the cheek for both Henry and Clara. The doctor said results would take 5 to 7 business days. Can we get ice cream while we wait? Clara asked as they left the clinic. Henry looked at Sarah. Can we? She wanted to say no, to maintain distance, but Clara was looking at her with those big, hopeful eyes. Fine, 1 ice cream. They ended up at a small parlor near the clinic. Clara ordered chocolate chip. Henry ordered vanilla. Sarah didn't order anything. Mama, you should get some. Clara said, I'm not hungry, baby. You never eat when you're worried. That's what Mrs. Parks says. She says you don't take care of yourself enough. Sarah felt her face heat. Henry was watching her with that intense gaze that made her feel exposed. I take care of myself fine, Sarah said. You work too much, Clara continued, blissfully unaware of the tension. Last week you fell asleep on the couch in your work clothes and didn't even eat dinner. Clara, and sometimes you cry in the shower when you think I'm asleep. But I can hear you. Sarah's breath caught. She'd tried so hard to be strong for Clara, to never let her daughter see her struggle. But children saw everything. Henry's expression was pained. Sarah, don't, she said sharply. Don't look at me like that. Like what? Like you pity me. It's not pity, it's... He stopped, searched for words. It's guilt, and regret, and a desperate wish that I could go back and change things. Well, you can't, I know, but I can help now. You don't have to do this alone anymore. I've been doing it alone for 6 years. I'm fine. You're falling asleep in your work clothes and crying in the shower. That's not fine. Sarah stood up abruptly. We should go, Mama. I'm not done with my ice cream. Finish it quickly. Clara's lower lip trembled. Sarah immediately felt guilty. She was taking her fear and anger out on her daughter, and that wasn't fair. She sat back down. Sorry, baby. Take your time. Awkward silence fell. Clara ate her ice cream, looking between her parents nervously. Henry broke the silence. I meant what I said, about helping. I know you're proud, and I respect that, but Clara shouldn't have to suffer because of my mistakes. She's not suffering. She's 6 years old, and she knows her mother cries in the shower. She sees you working yourself to exhaustion. That's a kind of suffering, even if you're doing your best to shield her from it. Sarah's hands clenched into fists under the table. You don't get to judge how I've raised her. I'm not judging. I'm in awe, actually, that you managed to raise such an incredible kid in such difficult circumstances. But now, you don't have to manage alone. Why? Because you showed up? You think you get to play hero after 6 years? No, because she's my daughter. And taking care of her, taking care of both of you, isn't playing hero. It's basic responsibility. Sarah stood again. This time Clara didn't protest, just quickly shoved the rest of her ice cream in her mouth. If you're still watching, I want you to do something for me. I want you to think about a time when pride kept you from accepting help you desperately needed. Drop a comment and tell me about it, because this story is about more than just Henry and Sarah. It's about all of us learning that accepting help doesn't make us weak. And if this story is touching your heart, hit that subscribe button, because what happens next will change everything. The DNA results came back on a Tuesday. Henry called Sarah's phone. She let it go to voicemail 3 times before finally answering. It's a match, he said without preamble. 99.98%. She's mine. Sarah had known it already, but hearing it confirmed made it real in a way it hadn't been before. Okay, she said. Okay, that's all you have to say. What do you want me to say? I don't know. I just thought. He stopped. Can I see her? Tomorrow? Sarah looked at her calendar. She had work until 3, then a dentist appointment she couldn't miss. Saturday. You can take her somewhere for a few hours. Supervised. Supervised by who? By me. Henry sighed. Sarah, I'm not going to kidnap my own daughter. Our daughter, and I don't know you. So yes, supervised. Fine. Where do you want to go? Clara loves the zoo. The zoo it is. I'll pick you both up at 10. We'll meet you there. Another sigh. All right. I'll text you the details. He hung up. Sarah stared at her phone, her heart racing. This was really happening. Henry Oswald was going to be part of their lives. She didn't know if that terrified her or relieved her. Saturday arrived too quickly. Clara had barely slept the night before, too excited about spending the day with her father. She'd changed outfits 4 times before settling on her favorite pink dress and star locket. "Do I look okay, Mama?" "You look beautiful, baby. What if he doesn't like me?" Sarah knelt down, took her daughter's face in her hands. "He's going to love you, because you're impossible not to love." They took the bus to the zoo. Sarah had Henry's offer of a car service firmly in her mind, but had refused it. She needed to maintain some independence, some control over this situation. Henry was waiting at the entrance, wearing jeans and a simple blue button-down. No suit, no tie. He looked younger like this, more like the man she'd met 6 years ago. He smiled when he saw Clara. "Hey, princess. Ready to see some animals?" "Yes. Can we see the elephants first? They're my favorite." "Absolutely. Lead the way." Clara grabbed his hand without hesitation. The gesture made Sarah's heart ache. Her daughter was so hungry for a father's love, so ready to trust. Please don't hurt her, Sarah thought. Please don't break her heart. They spent hours at the zoo. Henry bought Clara an elephant plush, ice cream, a monkey keychain. Every time Sarah tried to pay, he waved her off. "Let me," he said. "Please." Sarah watched them together, watched Henry listen intently as Clara rattled off facts about animals she'd learned from library books, watched him lift her onto his shoulders so she could see over the crowd at the penguin exhibit, watched him wipe ice cream off her face with such gentle care. He was good with her, natural, like he'd been waiting his whole life to be a father. And that scared Sarah more than anything. Because what happened when he got tired of playing dad? When the novelty wore off and he realized having a daughter meant PTA meetings and tantrums and boring routines? She'd pick up the pieces. That's what would happen, like she always did. They sat on a bench while Clara used the bathroom. The silence between them was heavy. "She's incredible," Henry said. "So smart. She knows more about marine biology than I do. She reads a lot. The library is free." Henry turned to look at her. "Why do you do that?" "Do what?" "Deflect every compliment, every offer of help, every kindness. Why can't you just accept that I want to be here? Because wanting to be here and actually being here are different things. And I won't let Clara get attached only to have you decide this is too hard. I'm not going to leave. You did before. I didn't remember. How many times do I have to say it? I didn't remember you, didn't remember that night, didn't know she existed. If I had known, I would have been there. How can I trust that? Because I'm here now, because I'm not running, because every time I look at her, I see the best parts of myself and the best parts of you, and I know I'd do anything to protect her." Sarah looked away. "You don't know me. You knew me for one night 6 years ago. Then let me know you now. Let me be part of this." Clara came running back, clutching a zoo map. "Can we see the giraffes before we go?" "Absolutely," Henry said, standing up. He offered his hand to Sarah. She stared at it for a moment before accepting, letting him pull her to her feet. His hand was warm, strong, familiar in a way that made her chest tight. She pulled away quickly. They saw the giraffes. On the walk back to the entrance, Clara started to lag, tired from all the walking. Without a word, Henry scooped her up and carried her. Clara's head dropped onto his shoulder. Within minutes, she was asleep. "She's out," Henry said softly. "She does that. Goes from full energy to completely asleep in seconds. She's perfect. She's stubborn and dramatic, and asks too many questions. Still perfect." They reached the parking lot. Sarah's bus stop was across the street. Henry's car, a sleek black sedan, was in the VIP section. "Let me drive you home," Henry said. "We can take the bus." "She's asleep. Let me drive you, please." Sarah was too tired to argue. She gave him the address and climbed into the back seat with Clara, who curled up against her. The drive was quiet, except for Clara's soft breathing. Sarah watched the city pass by through the window, trying not to think about how nice this felt, How easy it would be to get used to this. Henry pulled up outside her apartment building. It was old, paint peeling, in a neighborhood that wasn't terrible, but wasn't great. Sarah saw him take it in, saw the judgment, even if he tried to hide it. "Don't," she said. "I wasn't going to say anything. You were thinking it. I was thinking that you've worked incredibly hard to provide for her, that this building is clean and safe, and that's all that matters." He paused. "But I was also thinking I could set you up somewhere better. Not a mansion, just somewhere with more space. A second bedroom so Clara doesn't have to share with you." Sarah's jaw tightened. "We're fine here. Sarah, thank you for today." Clara had fun. She unbuckled Clara and lifted her sleeping daughter into her arms. Henry got out and opened her door. "Let me carry her up. I've got her. It's 4 flights and she's getting big. Let me help." Sarah wanted to refuse on principle, but Clara was heavy and Sarah's arms were tired. "Fine." Henry took Clara carefully, cradling her against his chest. They walked up the narrow stairs in silence. Sarah unlocked her apartment door and led him to the bedroom. The apartment was tiny but spotless. One bedroom that Sarah had made into Clara's room, decorated with homemade art and library sale books. Sarah slept on the pull-out couch in the living room. Henry laid Clara on the bed gently, removed her shoes, pulled the blanket up. "Good night, princess," he whispered, kissing her forehead. Then he followed Sarah back to the living room. He looked around, taking in the worn furniture, the small kitchen, the single window overlooking the alley. "How much is your rent?" he asked. "That's none of your business. I want to help. I don't want your money. It's not about what you want. It's about what Clara needs." Sarah's temper flared. "Don't you dare tell me what my daughter needs. I've been providing for her just fine. I know you have. But you shouldn't have to work 3 jobs to do it. Let me set up an account. Child support. You can use it however you want." I said no. "Why? Why are you so determined to struggle when I'm offering help?" "Because help comes with strings. Because if I take your money, you'll have power over me, over us. And I won't give you that. There are no strings. It's my responsibility as her father to provide for her. You don't get to decide you're her father after 6 years and start making demands." "I'm not making demands. I'm trying to take care of my child." They were both shouting now. Sarah realized it and lowered her voice, glancing toward Clara's room. "You need to leave," she said quietly. "Sarah, please, just go." Henry looked like he wanted to argue, but he nodded, pulled out his wallet, and placed a stack of bills on her coffee table. "Don't," Sarah warned. "For Clara. Buy her something she needs, or don't. Do whatever you want with it. But I'm not taking it back." He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the knob. "I know you don't trust me, and I understand why. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to show up again and again until you believe that I mean it." Then he left. Sarah stared at the money on her table. $500, probably pocket change to him, but it represented a week of work for her. She should give it back, should refuse it on principle. But Clara needed new shoes, and her keyboard had a broken key, and Sarah was so tired of being strong all the time. She took the money and hid it in her drawer, hating herself a little for accepting it. The visits became a routine. Every Saturday, Henry would take Clara somewhere: the aquarium, the science museum, the park, always with Sarah supervising, watching from a careful distance. She saw the way Clara blossomed around him. Her daughter laughed more, asked for things without the usual guilt Sarah saw in her eyes. Clara was acting like a kid should act, carefree and loved, and Henry was good with her, patient when she asked endless questions, encouraging when she showed him her piano playing, gentle when she skinned her knee at the park. Sarah found herself softening despite her determination not to. One Saturday, they went to the aquarium. Clara ran ahead to the seahorse exhibit, leaving Sarah and Henry walking together. "I've been meaning to ask you something," Henry said. "What?" "Why music?" "Clara said you wanted to study music therapy before everything happened." Sarah was surprised he'd asked. No one ever asked about her dreams anymore. "My grandmother used to sing to me when I was upset. She had this way of making everything feel better with music. I wanted to do that for other people. Help them heal through sound. That's beautiful. It was a stupid dream anyway, not practical. It wasn't stupid. It doesn't matter now. That life is gone. Henry stopped walking. What if it wasn't? What do you mean? What if you went back to school? Studied music therapy like you wanted? Sarah laughed bitterly. With what time? What money? I could help. Pay for tuition, arrange childcare for Clara. Stop. Just stop. Sarah turned away. I don't need you to rescue me. It's not about rescue. It's about giving you the chance you deserved 6 years ago. You can't fix the past by throwing money at it. I know I can't fix it, but I can try to make the future better. Clara came running back, oblivious to the tension. Daddy, did you know seahorse dads carry the babies? The mommies put the eggs in the daddy's pouch and he keeps them safe until they're born. Henry smiled down at her. I didn't know that. That's pretty amazing. Mrs. Chen says nature knows best, that daddies are just as important as mommies for taking care of babies. Henry's eyes met Sarah's over Clara's head. The message was clear. Let me be important. Let me take care of her. Sarah looked away first. That night, after Clara was asleep, Sarah's phone rang. Henry. She almost didn't answer. Hello? The DNA results are official. My lawyer processed the paperwork. I'm legally recognized as Clara's father. Sarah's stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means I have rights, custody rights, visitation rights. My lawyer suggested we work out a formal agreement. You're threatening me with lawyers? No, God, no. I'm just saying we should figure this out legally so there's no confusion. I don't want to fight you, Sarah. I want us to co-parent. Co-parent, Sarah repeated flatly. Yes. Work together for Clara's sake. And if I don't want to? Silence. Then, carefully, then my lawyer will file for partial custody, and a judge will decide. But I don't want that. I want us to work this out between us. This is blackmail. This is me being a father. I'm not trying to take her from you. I just want to be in her life officially. Sarah closed her eyes. She'd known this was coming. The moment he found out Clara was his, this was inevitable. What are you proposing? Weekends with me. Every other weekend to start. And I want to set up child support. Real support, not just cash on your coffee table. I don't want your money. It's not about what you want. Henry's frustration bled through. Clara is entitled to financial support from both parents. Would you rather I go through the courts and have them mandate it? Sarah felt trapped, cornered. Fine. Send me the papers. Sarah, I'm not trying to hurt you. Then, stop making me feel powerless. She hung up before he could respond. The agreement arrived 3 days later. Legal documents outlining custody, visitation, child support. Henry's lawyer had been generous. More than generous. Sarah would receive enough money each month to quit 2 of her jobs. Every other weekend, Clara would stay at Henry's. Holidays would be split. It was fair, reasonable, everything she should want for her daughter. So why did it feel like losing? Sarah signed the papers with shaking hands. The first overnight visit was the hardest. Henry picked Clara up Friday evening. Her daughter had packed her little backpack with pajamas and her favorite, stuffed elephant, chattering excitedly about staying at Daddy's house. Be good, Sarah said, kneeling down to hug her. I will. Don't be sad, Mama. I'll be back Sunday. I know, baby. I love you. Love you too. And then they were gone. Sarah stood in her empty apartment and felt the silence press down on her like a weight. She should be happy. This was good for Clara. Henry could give her things Sarah never could. Stability, security, opportunities. But it felt like her daughter was being taken from her piece by piece. Saturday morning, Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from Henry with a photo. Clara, in an enormous bed, surrounded by pillows, grinning at the camera. She insisted on video calling you. Is now okay? Sarah's phone immediately rang with a video call. Clara's face filled the screen. Mama, you should see this house. It's so big. And I have my own room with a real piano. A real piano. Henry's face appeared behind Clara. I hope you don't mind. I thought since she loves music. It's fine, Sarah said, her throat tight. And we're making pancakes with chocolate chips. Do you want to see the kitchen? Clara ran through the house, showing Sarah everything. The massive living room, the gourmet kitchen, the backyard with a pool. Sarah felt sick. How was she supposed to compete with this? How could her tiny apartment and second-hand keyboard compare to a mansion with a real piano? After the call ended, Sarah sat on her couch and let herself cry for the first time in months. By Sunday afternoon, she'd pulled herself together. When Henry brought Clara back, Sarah had a smile ready. Did you have fun, baby? So much fun. Daddy and I played piano together and he's teaching me a new song, and we watched movies and… That's wonderful. Go wash up for dinner. Clara ran off. Henry lingered in the doorway. She talked about you all weekend, he said. Every other sentence was, Mama says, or Mama likes, or I wish Mama was here. She's just being nice. No, she's being honest. You're her whole world, Sarah. This weekend was fun for her, but you're her home. Sarah didn't know what to say to that. Also, Henry continued, pulling an envelope from his pocket, the first support payment, certified check. It'll be automatic deposit going forward, but I wanted to give you this one in person. Sarah took the envelope without opening it. Thank you, and I was wondering if we could schedule dinner. The three of us, maybe once a week, just to make sure Clara sees us getting along. We are getting along. We're being civil. That's different. Sarah sighed. Fine. Wednesday nights. I have Wednesdays off. Wednesday it is. I'll make reservations. Nowhere fancy. Clara won't be comfortable. Anywhere you want. After he left, Sarah opened the envelope. The check inside was for $10,000. She stared at it, her hands trembling. This was more money than she'd made in the last 6 months combined, and she hated that she needed it. Hated that accepting it made her dependent on him. Hated that part of her was relieved. She deposited the check and paid off her credit cards. Bought Clara new clothes that actually fit. Fixed the broken key on the keyboard. And with what was left, she enrolled in one online music therapy class. Just one. Just to see if she remembered how to dream.